Welcome, history fans, to the second episode of History Unscripted. Today we're blasting off and discovering what really happened on that famous Apollo 11 mission. Whether it's fact or fiction, this is still one of humanity's greatest achievements. So there we were on that fateful night of July 20th, 1969. The whole world was watching with bated breath as NASA prepared to pull off the most daring stunt in human history, a live moon landing. Yeah, you heard that right. Not some crummy little rover puttering around up there, but actual human beings setting foot on lunar soil. The hype was unreal. Mission Control was abuzz with activity. Hundreds of NASA's top scientists and engineers scrambling around like ants on a hot sidewalk. Amidst the chaos, 3 brave astronauts were suiting up for the ride of their lives. Neil Armstrong, the cool and calculated commander, Buzz Aldrin, equal parts smart and feisty, and poor Michael Collins, destined to be the loneliest man in the universe as he orbited solo around the moon. As the Saturn V rocket roared to life on the launch pad, you could practically feel the raw power rippling through the air. The enormous 363-foot-tall metal beast, slowly lifting off as millions worldwide held their collective breath. 3 brave souls, strapped to 6.5 million pounds of controlled explosions roaring towards the heavens at speeds exceeding 25,000 miles per hour. Talk about a wild ride. After a smooth 3-day coast to the moon, it was showtime. Armstrong and Aldrin squeezed into the tiny lunar lander nicknamed Eagle, while Collins stayed behind preparing for the most isolated camping trip imaginable as he orbited in the command module, Columbia. Down, down, down went the lander as Aldrin called out data, and Armstrong flew those final critical minutes. Landing radar, check. Attitude thrusters, check. Aim for a smooth, level surface. With just seconds of fuel remaining, the spindly spacecraft touched down in the Sea of Tranquility. Houston Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Could you imagine the elation and relief that flooded through Mission Control at those words? An impossibly complex string of calculations and maneuvers executed perfectly, resulting in the first human landing on another celestial body. But the show was just getting started. A few hours later, with the world watching every fuzzy feed from the lunar surface, Armstrong emerged first and uttered his timeless words. "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Goosebumps. Even watching the grainy footage decades later, you can feel the weight of that moment. Over the next few hours, the intrepid duo collected samples, planted an American flag, spoke with President Nixon by phone, a bit choppy but first interplanetary video call, and set up some basic science experiments. Talk about multitasking. They then settled in for a few precious hours of shut-eye before their ambitious return voyage. Now let's talk about Michael Collins. While Buzz and Neil were busy two-stepping on the surface, poor Collins was completely alone, the most isolated a human has ever been, as he silently orbited the far side of the moon. Every 47 minutes, he'd fly out of radio contact, totally cut off from humanity, for up to 48 breathless minutes at a time. Just him, his lonely little metal cocoon, and a distant view of Earth out the window. But all was not doom and gloom up there. Ever the resourceful fellow, Collins kept himself occupied with light reading, sketching the lunar surface, and using a makeshift waste bag as a crude punching bag during those long, lonesome orbits. True story. He even brought along his family Christmas card to pass the time. Finally, after 21 hours on the lunar surface, it was time for Armstrong and Aldrin to fire up the ascent engines and rejoin Collins aboard Columbia. After a tense docking and Eagle jettison, the merry crew were homeward bound, safely distanced from any ravenous moon gremlins or hostile spacey bases. The 3 spacemen splashed down in the Pacific Ocean after a picture-perfect return to terra firma. Emerging from their scorched command module, they immediately donned strict quarantine suits as a precaution against any hypothetical lunar pathogens. Hey, you can't be too careful with interplanetary infectious diseases. Thus ended the Apollo 11 extravaganza, arguably the crowning achievement of human discovery and technology. Sure, there would be 5 more successful moon landings to come, but that first small step for man would forever etch Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins into the annals of history as larger-than-life heroes of modern civilization. So there you have it. A light-hearted, hopefully factual, and totally non-boring recap of the historic Apollo 11 mission. After walking through the whole saga, you can't help but appreciate the immense scope of these trailblazers' accomplishment. Primitive by today's standards, their technical mastery and bravery opened the doorway to the cosmos. Even now, 50 years later, we're still reaping the benefits of that bold push for the stars. Advancements in computing, robotics, material science, and much more trace their roots back to the Apollo program. So the next time you whip out your smartphone or GPS device, be sure to silently thank those space race pioneers for their indelible contribution to life here on Earth. And that wraps up our journey through the Apollo 11 moon mission. If you liked this episode, check out my recent video exploring the lost city of Thonis Heraklion. I've left a link in the description. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Leave a comment sharing your favorite space stories or topics you'd like me to cover next, and subscribe so you catch all my upcoming historical adventures. Thanks as always for watching History Reforged.